let's go straight to alcohol. This culturally accepted norm,
Yeah.
and it's embedded in celebrations and everything that we do. This legal drug, it's affecting families here. It really is. I can't speak for anywhere else, but you can tell us about the early exposure and how it would go on to affect us later on, to affect people later on.
A- Alcohol gets a unique grip on us because of the physical properties of it. So, back in the day, initially it was called spirits, and it was called spirits for a reason. It would allow access, uh, your mental access to things that you might not should have been exposed to. And once it gets that physical grip on you, boy, it's unrelenting in its hold on you. And your body, people become so physically dependent on alcohol that many of them would rather die or die slow deaths, knowing that their liver is being cirrhosed, knowing that their families are being broken apart, all because of a drug that they have become so accustomed to using to cope that they can't get away from it. One of the reasons why it affects our community so much is that chronic stress exposure. So you got to look. The body works as a system. If you're continuously exposed to stress, you got to have some way of relieving that stress intermittently. That's one of the reasons why drug use and alcoholism is so prevalent in our society is because of the pressures that are on us, and you've got to find some way of alleviating it. Now, people who live in other areas might be able to go to yoga and Pilates and do it, but when you live in a neighborhood and you're worried about your kid being shot at school or your kid being exposed to drugs or being exposed to pedophiles, that changes the way that you live and operate day to day. So you just going and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go and talk to somebody sometime" is not always the remedy, or you might not have the money to do it. So what's the next alternative? The thing that's in your neighborhood that you is walking distance from you. You're
Easy
gonna have
access.
a dialysis clinic, or you're gonna have a liquor store. Yeah, you're gonna have those things. You're gonna have a church, a dialysis center, and a liquor store. And that vice that's most close to you that you can afford, that's one of the reasons why the alcohol is so cheap some places. You can go get cheap, bad alcohol. It's accessible to you because you're under pressure. And that pressure makes you go, I've got to find some way to deal with this because I just can't sit here all day, every day, suffering, worried about my money, worried about, living life, worried about my safety, worried about the safety of my kids. That psychology physiologically manifests, and you figure out ways to deal with the stress. And the stress is that we go to alcohol. And unfortunately, even when we become educated about it, in many cases they'll continue it because in psychology you can't take a vice or a alleviating factor away without giving them a skill or alternative that they can go to, or they'll revert back to it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Yes,
does,
it
Miss Charles.
does.
And the number, I'm getting a couple of messages,
Go ahead,
thank,
Nick, and ask questions.
thanking you very much for spending the time to break this down for us in a different way. We try to keep this because it's part of our mandate. Apart from telling stories and biographies, this is part
Yeah.
of our mandate. And I'm happy that you took the time to join us this morning, and our listeners, especially because we have a huge radio audience, and
Yeah.
they appreciate you. So thank you very much. And one thing you spoke about that happens here often, and there's sometimes you will see, well, apart from almost every gathering by club or bars or whatever, there's always a fight to close off the night. Um,
Yeah.
there's also, like, especially for carnival, people passing out and people
Yeah.
leaving them passed out,
Yeah.
after overconsumption of alcohol. Please let people know how dangerous that is.
Yeah. So here's the thing: alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. That means it goes to your brain and decreases your brain's ability to function. That's the first thing it does. It goes straight to your brain. Your liver hits it, and boom, it goes straight to your head. Secondarily, alcohol dehydrates you. Back to dehydration. So you combine hot sunshine, dancing, lots of alcohol, and that energy consumption, boom, you're knocked out. The problem is you can sustain head injuries, and alcohol toxicity very quickly because of your hydration status, because that alcohol level in your body can get high enough that it can actually make your brain shut down to protect itself. So it's extremely dangerous in those situations. And people tend not to hydrate. They get out there, they start having a good time. Keep in mind, when they start to drink, they're impaired. So an impaired person does not make good decisions.
Yep.
And
Yeah, that's the cycle. That you're impaired. So once you're impaired, you're at the mercy of the people around you and the environment that you're in. Because if everybody's drinking, nobody's making clear-headed decisions.
how
Nobody's
many?
walking around saying, "Hey, I need to drink some water, but I'm drunk." Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So you can,
Right.
yeah. Can you get me some fruit or something to balance me out? No, they don't,
No.
and they don't eat, and they're partying. And keep in mind, then you get into multi-substance use. So you get a couple of drinks in you, you feel good. Somebody says, "Hey, we'll eat this," or "Let's smoke this," and then you combining these things that pushes your body in two different directions. Alcohol suppresses your brain activity. You doing cocaine, it'll make it go up. So your body's then fighting itself. That's when real issues come into play. And when the body's being pushed in two different directions from a nervous system's perspective, your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, you could easily go into having seizures or possibly having a stroke.